you were talking about the. This isn't the Brian Kibler style red-green aggro deck. It doesn't.
Oh yeah, it is. No, it is.
Okay, yeah.
It's got, I mean, a couple slight twists, like main deck volcanic strength, but for the most part, this is the exact same formula. Flint Hoof, Boar, Strangleroot Geist, and Scavenging Ooze for an early game with Hellrider and Thundermaw Hellkite at the end. Domri Roddy, Mizzy Mortars. Yeah, it's the exact same thing with Burning Earth in the sideboard. His twist here is that he adopted Chandra Pyromancer in the sideboard, as per Kibler's suggestion, which was actually Rosewater's idea. And then he also has adopted some Volcanic Strengths main deck, which is nice considering just how many people are playing red in this field.
Yeah, and Huey is one of those players. He's playing Jund. I think this is the same Jund. This is pretty much the
Knowing
same
Huey,
Jund build
it's
we've been
Reed Duke
seeing.
Jund.
Yep. It looks exactly like his list.
Hebert starting off with the Arbor Elf on turn 1. It's really a different kind of game now that there's so many more elves. So many more turn 1 elves available in the format.
Yeah. So we do see the turn 1 Arbor Elf from Roger Hebert, followed by a Rootbound Crag. So interesting. This green red aggro deck we've been seeing. Originally we saw like the Frog in a Blender Saito green red decks. They're based on Burning Tree Emissary. This deck's a little different, right?
Yeah, it goes a little bit bigger. The Saito style Flint Hoof Boar decks are just so all in, and sweepers, lots of 1-for-1 spot removal can just pick those decks apart.
Yeah, so we see a pair of Scavenging Oozes hit the board now. First for Roger Hebert, then for Huey. Basically, so they're playing when they play these cards here. The Scavenging Ooze seems like more of an aggressive card out of Hebert's deck, whereas Huey's just kind of trying to like create board parity here, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, Huey would be happy to trade his Scavenging Ooze for anything.
Okay.
He just wants to defend himself. So what's interesting is this matchup actually favors the red-green player, traditionally. A lot of the Jund decks have Lifebane Zombie, which can really, have an impact on the matchup. But
not if Hebert dumps out his hand as quickly as he is, though. His turn 3, he has a double. Yeah, he has a double Strangleroot Geist, and then it swings the entire team.
And and that's the thing is that Huey, like Reed, doesn't play main deck Pillar of Flame and doesn't play Lifebane Zombie like some Jund players.
So he's a lot softer to Geist, right?
Absolutely.
So Huey now facing down to 6 damage immediately. It looks like he's going to decide to trade the Scavenging Oozes. Like you were saying, he would be really happy to make that trade.
Yeah. Yeah, Huey's definitely in pretty rough shape. Doesn't have access to Pillar of Flame even after sideboarding. So basically, his hope at this point is that he just keeps trading for a little while and hopes to get down, live long enough to play a Huntmaster or a Thragtusk.
Yeah, so he can't actually. What you're saying is he can't actually remove the Strangleroot Geists. He has to instead, trump them with a larger creature like an Olivia, a Huntmaster, a Thragtusk.
Well, as we saw here, I mean, Bonfire definitely has the capability of helping. Here we're seeing it sort of get half the Geist, but they're going to come back hitting even harder, which is going to put Huey at a pretty low life total, 9 after this next attack.
Yeah,
and that still leaves him with 2 more problems to solve in play.
Right, so so he cast the Bonfire there. He did hit the Arbor Elf and got half of both the Strangleroot Geists. But I think he really hit the point where he turned his opponent's 5 power board now into a 6 power board.
Right, like this is definitely a tough grind. But a single Huntmaster does stabilize the board.
Yeah.
Assuming Hebert has nothing else. Unfortunately, Hebert's still several cards in hand.
Yeah, I think he still has 3 left. And I'm like just the follow-up plays that Hebert's deck has. And you look at it, he has Thundermaw Hellkites. He has Flint of Boars, Gorklan Rampagers.
Hellrider, sure.
And we're going to come now with a main deck Volcanic Strength. This is one of the 2 cards. He added 2 of these to the main deck. That'll push in 8 damage this turn. Huey does have a red source, but it's a Rootbound Crag, not actually a mountain. So right now the Volcanic Strength is just a +2/+2.
Now, what Huey really needs here is some kind of spot removal, like Putrefy, Doomblade, anything in that area, right?
Yeah.
So he does have that Huntmaster.
Yeah, so you're talking about the Huntmaster. He said, hey, a Huntmaster will trade for this board. Obviously with Volcanic Strength, that's not really going to happen now. I mean, but we almost might be in chump block mode for Huey here. Or can he actually afford to take 5?
Well, I don't know. I think if you're Huey, you have to just you probably just trade with the big Geist. Trade both of your guys and take 3. I mean, it is definitely possible that he just kills the small Geist so that he doesn't take any damage, but it would depend on the rest of his hand. He might be capitalizing on the fact that he knows that Kibler didn't play any actual burn in the main deck,
right?
So he might think he can afford to just trade the wolf with the small Geist take the 5 damage, drop to 4. Oh no,
Now
Kessig Wolf Run
yeah,
makes
so
it so that, yeah.
the 4th land comes down from Hebert. Yeah, it is a Kessig Wolf Run, so you're saying he doesn't play any burn, but that sometimes almost acts as a burn spell in these situations.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, every creature, basically, if Hebert hits Huey 2 more times, that's gonna be curtains for baby Huey.
All right, so we see a Flinthoof Boar played after that land and given haste. So Hebert now making a swing of a 3/3 Boar, a 3/2 Geist.
It's only a 2/2 Boar, right?
It's only a 2/2. Oh,
There's no
right.
mountains.
It's a Rootbound Crag. So it's a 2/2 Boar.
Right. So I think at this
You're
point the play is pretty clearly you have to trade with the 2 small creatures.
Okay, so yeah, and he does exactly that pretty quickly. Trades with the 2/2 Boar, trades with the 3/2 Geist. The 5/4 Strangleroot Geist is going to hit him down to 4 life. But one removal spell should actually stabilize this for him, right?
Yep, more or less. It's as stable as you can be against an opponent with a dozen haste creatures and a Kessig Wolf Run while you're at 4 life, but...
That's fair. So we see in Huey's hand, he has a Rakdos Keyrune, he has, looks like to be another Huntmaster, and an Olivia Voldaren, and a Kessig Wolf Run of his own.
So the Olivia is actually a legitimate plan to take over the game. If he gets Olivia into a stable board, he can actually, very easily just clean up. However, he's several, clicks behind.
Right.
He needs to deal with that Geist without dying.
And his first play is Rakdos Keyrune. It looks like he's going to try to block with it.
Right, so the nice thing about the Rakdos Keyrune is that if Hebert has nothing, it does stop the Geist, because no amount of trample will help. The Geist, actually no.
The Geist is a 4 toughness, right?
Yeah,
so
no. So
actually,
yeah, you're absolutely right.
So right now, a swing into Kessig Wolf Run activation actually is lethal unless Huey
5, 6,
has
7. It is, but Huey is...
He's representing Putrefy. He's
right,
representing some...
Are we sure he doesn't have it? Because if he had a Huntmaster, he could at least live.
Okay,
he does
it looks
have
like
a
he has a
Putrefy.
Putrefy.
I was going to say.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna be like, that would be... I agree, yeah. So Putrefy does hit the Strangleroot Geist.
Things are starting to look pretty...
I think he might have turned the corner, yeah, and a big pass there from Roger Hebert. No follow-up creature. He does have a pair of cards in his hand, but...
Oh my gosh, I've got Huey as a big favorite at this point. This is the line that he was looking for.
A freshly drawn Thragtusk puts Huey back up to 9. And now it's going to be on Hebert, I think, to find a way to push that last 9 damage through. Thragtusk really helping to stabilize the board there.
So Hebert's got several cards in hand. Now he's got 2 more cards in hand, and he had missed his land drop. I got to imagine he's got a Hell Rider and a Thundermaw Hellkite in his hand.
Yeah,
I can't even think of what other cards he would still have in his hand at this point if he's missing land drops. Besides, it's possibly as Mizzy and Mortars, but most likely his hand is Hell Rider and Thundermaw Hellkite.
Right, those are the only things he can't cast right now.
Right, which, if that's his hand, is a pretty effective plan.
Right.
Except now you're under the gun with both Olivia and Thragtusk.
Yeah, so Huey hits him for 5, puts Hebert down to 14, then follows up with the Olivia Voldaren. Now has enough mana to immediately kill the Arbor Elf. And so now Huey with 9 power on board has a 2-turn clock on Hebert, who really is going to have trouble having a creature stick at this point.
Yeah, that is definitely the look of a man who has a Thundermaw Hellkite and he did not rip the red land for 4 turns in a row.
There we go. So now he hits the red land.
But now it's a turn too late. Because Olivia can just steal.
Right. So say his hand is Thundermaw.
Sure.
Now does he have a chance yet, or is it still not enough?
Well, so if he Thundermaws, he taps Olivia.
Right.
And gets in there for 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then Huey can attack for 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. Yeah, he doesn't quite have enough. His Rakdos Keyrune, 12. Yeah, he doesn't quite have enough to finish Hebert off. Even with a land, he's 1 mana short of just killing him outright.
Of just having Olivia put a bunch of counters on herself.
And Kessig Wolf Run.
Oh, okay, the Kessig Wolf Run, right.
Right. And he's 1 mana short even if he plays a land. So I think if Hebert's hand is Thundermaw Hellkite, he at least has a chance.
Right. Huey can sit back and maybe try to steal one of the Hellkites before attacks. But I think seems like the multiple dragon hand is probably the out he's looking at.
Yeah, if he plays a Thundermaw Hellkite and Huey doesn't have a land, he won't have enough mana to actually steal immediately.
Okay, so he has 6 lands, right?
Yeah, right now he has 6 land. So his now I think though that he would, if he had 2 Thundermaw Hellkites, he would see that that's his line. So it might be that his other card is Hell Rider.
So we see the first Thundermaw, that taps Olivia, and he's going to put Huey back down to 4. Now remember that he's tapped out here. If Huey, as you said before, if Huey has a land, he actually has a 14-point attack here, right?
Yes. Now what's interesting is that Huey only has 2 red land, so he can't actually shoot down a Hellrider, if Hebert's follow-up card is Hellrider.
Okay, so that put then Huey down to 2 immediately on the attack. And you'd have to have a block for everything.
Now he does have a Huntmaster in his hand.
So that'll help. That'll help maybe, that puts him actually above 5, right?
But he still loses to another Thundermaw.
So we see that land, it's Kessig Wolfrun for Huey. So as you were counting before, that's
enough to steal now.
It's enough, so that's enough to steal. With the Wolfrun activation, it looks like it's 1 point short of being lethal. So
yes.
It's a 13-point swing. So he's gonna have to do defense in some capacity here.
Yep, absolutely.
So do you swing the Thragtusk to make your next turn lethal? And if you're Huey, it looks like you swing both.
Now, what does this even lose to? Because if he's got enough mana to steal another Thundermaw,
then he can steal the freshly played Thundermaw.
Right, and threaten to block the other one.
Okay, so he puts
So I
Roger
think,
down to 4.
And this is one of those times where the fact that Hebert is playing a net deck is
really
paying off, is paying off for Huey because he knows what to play around. He knows, for instance, Hebert doesn't have Brimstone Volley. He doesn't know for sure, but he knows that Kibler didn't, so the odds are way down.
Right. It looks like Hebert's he's moved to attacks here, and Huey's going to go ahead and stop him before attacks. Olivia's going to bite on the Hellkite and look to steal it.
It's one of those, check the Olivia, does that card really do that?
Yep, okay.
Packs it in.
And
wow. And had Mizzium Mortars. Now, Mizzium Mortars wouldn't have helped him in that spot, but that is a spot where the stock list had a card that wouldn't win it for him, but if he had been playing Bonfire of the Damned, if he had been playing Brimstone Volley, not that those cards are better, most likely the best card is Mortars, which is why Kibler played it in the first place. However, there are advantages to playing a deck that people aren't familiar with. Now, that game was super, super, super down to the wire. Well played by Huey to put himself in that position.
Yeah, so what we kind of saw there was really Hebert's being the aggressive deck and saw like whether or not Huey can turn the corner in this matchup. And post board, are we expecting to see more of the same here? I kind of want to look at the players' sideboards. I mean, I have to imagine the Jund deck is going to side into more removal. He has Pillar of Flames in his sideboard.
But only 2 of them.
Only 2. So, yeah, only 2 Pillar of Flames. He does have a Tragic Slip.
And Golgari Charm.
Golgari Charm.
The Golgari Charm being important because he's going to anticipate Burning Earth.
Right.
Which is just very effective against it.
So Golgari Charm has the 2 modes. It has the Shrivel mode on it, and then also has the Blow Up Enchantment mode.
And as we saw that game, being able to do, reduce the health of all your, hitting everybody for 1 is definitely very important, but also having outs to things like Burning Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has a 3rd mode, which is relevant.
Regenerate all your creatures?
For instance, we saw Mizzium Mortars. If somebody hits you with Mizzium Mortars, it's not that often because he doesn't play that many creatures, but there's going to be an occasional situation where he can save his Olivia or his Huntmaster with a Golgari Charm.
Yeah, a lot of times he'll tap out for a Huntmaster. He'll play a Huntmaster to try to stabilize the board, and then an overloaded Mortars will be shot at him or something like that. I want to look at Roger's plan for the matchup. I know that originally Kibler had Gruul War Chants in his sideboard, and you said that those were replaced with Chandra Pyromancers, right?
Yeah.
Is that for this sort of matchup, or?
It's somewhat for this, but it's even more so for the Jund matchups that have Lifebane Zombie. Now, he's not going to know for sure that Huey doesn't have Lifebane Zombie, but one of the things you want to do against these people is make their Thragtusk not able to block. And if they have a Lifebane Zombie is actually a pretty effective blocker itself. It trades with a lot of things and, can take 1 more threat out of the hand, like Gorklay and Rampager. But if you have Chandra, you can just play it and immediately kill the Pyroman or kill the zombie. Here, there aren't as many things to kill, but you still value being able to remove a blocker like a Thragtusk, and more importantly, it's another threat that isn't just killed by things like Tragic Slip and Abrupt Decay and Putrefy and so on.
Right.
And if it just sits in play, it can actually threaten to win the game pretty quickly.
So as someone who hasn't played too much with Chandra Pyromaster yet. I know that you'd said, so it's really good for removing blockers like Thragtusk, which really can be a problem for red-green decks. How often is the card, I think there's a second ability on the card, which is the 0 ability that lets you play the top card of your deck. So I also, when I'm looking at that card, I kind of see some appeal in it where it's like a Domery Rod, where it's a slow card advantage engine. Is that a plan that Hebert can actually take here? I know that Jund is usually excellent at card advantage.
Well, it is, but it is the right way to fight Jund sometimes because Jund has so many one-for-one answers. If they end up drawing a hand full of one-for-ones, and you have, you're drawing 2 cards a turn.
Sure.
You can just run them out of removal, and then they have nothing left to stop your dragon.
Right.
So I think that the 0 ability is going to also be quite important. The ultimate, not well utilized in this deck. There just aren't any spells. You're not using it for the ultimate. You're just using it primarily to remove blockers, but secondary, if there isn't a blocker you need to remove. Sometimes you're pinging, but for the most part, you Howling Mine whenever you don't have a blocker to remove.
Okay, so we have 4 Burning Earth, we have 2 Chandra Pyromancers coming in out of the board from Roger. Outside of that, it looks like he's probably going to... Those seem like the biggest things he boards in the matchup. Perhaps he has he moved the 4th Domery Rod to the board from the original Kibler list.
Yeah, it dies to Abrupt Decay, but he may want to bring it in if he wants to play an attrition-y game. It's possible, though, that he might just feel like he wants to be as fast as possible. But if he's on the play, the odds of a quick Domery Roddy sticking are pretty good, and although I personally would just play all 4-man deck. So I definitely like it here. Those 4 Burning Earth just so effective. We see Huey's only got 2 basic land in his entire 75.
So it's pretty much just a Mana Barbs in this matchup.
A one-sided
Mana Barbs, yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, Roger's deck has 14 basic lands in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus Mana Elves.
Yeah. So tap lands come into play for both players on turn 1. Roger looks like he's going to be the first aggressor. He does have that 2-drop in Strangleroot Geist, and he'll put Huey down to 18.
Absolutely. If we had the little poker number up there for like percentage chance to win, just from looking at this board, I think Hebert's a pretty good favorite.
Yeah. So Huey does have Scavenging Ooze, which can be an answer for that Undying trigger on turn 2. Because that he's probably not going to make a trade just yet. Yep,
absolutely. Scavenging Ooze, not an all-star against red green, but it does have the ability to remove the persist creature, the Undying creature, while the ability is on the stack.
So it looks like in the rest of Roger's hand he has 2 more lands. He does have that Burning Earth in his hand. Now granted his board currently has 2 Rootbound Crags and a Forest. So if his hand is mostly non-basics, he still slams the Burning Earth on turn 4?
Well, I think he slams it if he doesn't have something else that does even more damage.
Okay, that's fair.
I think you're often going to want to just play a Hell Rider just to put even more pressure on somebody. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So
and then we see the Scavenging Ooze already putting in some work.
Yeah, so Hebert on turn 3 played a 2nd Strangleroot Geist, hit Huey to 14, but then Huey, on his main phase, casts the Mizium Mortars and eats it with Scavenging Ooze, bringing himself up to 15, and it looks like, for the most part, stopping Roger's attacks.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, you can't just slam a Burning Earth here. You're behind on board.
Right.
You'd actually lose the race. But what he does, he needs to commit something else to the board. The big thing he has going for him is he can't help but notice Huey doesn't have any black mana.
Right, so that'll take Huey. There will no off Olivia, off a lot of his removal spells. So he'll be kept to basically Hunt Masters and Thrag Tusks until he finds a black.
Yeah, he really doesn't have it. Now, it does help that he has Farseeks, so it's possible at some point he'll just Farseek for a swamp. But
yeah, we also see Chandra Pyromass. So it looks like Mizium Mortars, Forest, Chandra, and Burning Earth here from Roger. So actually he's a little light on creatures at the moment.
So I actually don't mind just swinging. If you actually have Chandra in your hand, I don't mind swinging with a Geist.
Hoping that he actually blocks it.
Absolutely. So that you can drop Chandra and then do 1 damage to the Ooze to finish it off.
Right.
And if he doesn't block, that's what you want anyway.
Right, then you get him to 13. It looks like he's going to use the Mizium
Yeah, if he has Mortars, yeah, because that's the main thing, is he just needs to get the Ooze off the table because it's trumping his board so far.
So we see that.
There's the black mana.
There's the black mana. It's Blood Crypt, so he's going to go to 11 to cast it. He's going to put it down anyway and cast Hunt Master of the Fells, putting himself back up to 13.
Once again, Hebert falling behind on the board.
Yes.
A little bit of a slow start.
So he still can't play that Burning Earth yet, you'd say? He's too far behind?
No.
He's going to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as long as, now the tough thing, though, here is that Huey has the option to just pass and flip his Hunt Master, which is going to give him a pretty big board. Hebert if Hebert has, I guess, Thundermaw Hellkite, he needs something. I don't know why he wouldn't have just played it there.
Right, and we know that there's a Chandra left in his hand. So Hebert does still have access. He has 2 Rootbound Crags, 3 Forests. So he still has access to all his green spells without taking damage, whereas Huey literally has 4 non-basics.
Yeah, I mean, Huey is not casting very many spells the rest of this game.
Yeah, he does have a Farseek Stomping Ground.
Yeah, but it's not even worth it, because taking 2 damage to Farseek for your 1 basic swamp, you'd still need to take several more damage to cast any of his spells.
Right. So
yeah, at this point, Huey is pretty much on the ride the Huntmaster plan as long as he can.
So yeah, so we see that Huntmaster flip. It's going to put Scavenging Ooze in the graveyard, which will come back as a 3/3.
Yeah, the
Strangleroot Geist. Thank you. It looks like... so right now, Hebert's still up on life points, but as you said, pretty far behind on board.
Yeah, I mean, now he has the advantage that he gets to keep casting spells.
Yeah.
However, if he doesn't keep casting spells, the Huntmaster's just going to tear him apart.
Right.
The Huntmaster, first of all, he's 6 power on the table, but...
Yeah, 6 versus 3, Huey actually wins that race right now.
Yeah, and if Hebert plays 2 spells in a turn, things get even worse, because then the Huntmaster will flip back the other way, then flip again.
Yeah. It does mean Hebert kind of has control over the Huntmaster flipping, though, right?
Yes.
Huey playing 2 spells in a turn is probably not something he can ever do.
Yeah, it's possible that he ends up with, a Tragic Slip and a Pillar of Flame, but for the most part, Huey doesn't have Huey's probably got 1 more good spell, unless things like a Thragtusk pay for itself.
Right.
So he could for sure play a Thragtusk he draws, or if he has an enchantment removal card like a Golgari Charm to remove the Burning Earth. But for the most part, Huey is extremely constricted in terms of what he can actually play.
Yeah, it looks like he has an Olivia Voldaren in his hand. And
2 Olivias and a Farseek?
2 Olivias, a Farseek, and I think the last card may be another Huntmaster. But, yeah, I mean, something like Olivia, right? You can't even really play that card on a Burning Earth board.
No. Now, the Huntmaster he could play. It'll net lose him 2, but it's a huge board presence. He didn't want to play it there. If he actually has a Huntmaster, he wouldn't want to play it there just so he can flip his Huntmaster that's in play. But I wouldn't be surprised if, there's a lot of boards where he would play a second Huntmaster next turn.
Absolutely. So we see Hebert's kind of deciding what to commit here. He has that Chandra play you talked about again, where he can, just swing the Geist and then go for a post-combat Chandra. If you're Huey, though, I'm not even sure that Huey blocks a Strangleroot Geist swing right now.
Interesting. If he drops to 10 because he can swing back?
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking about that. It does look like Hebert has a second Burning Earth in hand, which looks like a little bit of a dead card right now.
It's interesting. So the problem is that Hebert can't really effectively block with his Strangleroot Geist.
Right, because there's Trample. It's not big enough. There's Trample on top of that.
Now he does have the option to play the Chandra beforehand, just to make sure that Huey doesn't block. Another Burning Earth.
For second Burning Earth.
Wow.
Now,
yeah, it looked like he also had Downright in his
here?
hand.
Yeah.
It's very aggressive. I mean, God, wow. See, I feel like if this is your line, if you really want to play another Burning Earth, you still attack with the Strangleroot Geist first, just so you can play Chandra and kill the wolf if he does block, and if he doesn't block, then play your Burning Earth if you really want to. But I feel like this just puts him so far behind on board that it's going to be really hard to, because now he's going to take even more. I mean, Huey already can't cast anything.
Right. Now Huey really...
and now Hebert's going to take, he took 1 damage from the red that turn. He's going to take 2 damage next turn. He needs to deal with this 4/4 Trampler.
Yeah, we saw Huey actually drawing another Huntmaster there, and he had a pretty, a grin on his face of the, it's another spell I can't really cast sort of look.
If Hebert had played the Chandra, the combination of Chandra and Downright can also kill the 4/4 Trampler.
Right, they can make the 3/2 fight it and then ping it.
Yeah, so he attacks and then he drops Chandra, and this is going to be tough. Now, obviously, he's got a lot of creatures in his deck that could actually, he's got a lot of cards he could draw to deal with a Huntmaster, but
he has he could draw Mizium Mortars maybe. And
wow, so
Huey's going to play 1 more.
8 damage to commit another Huntmaster to the board.
8, so it'll put him back up 6 total, because he gets to gain 2. So he's going to go down to 7 for the Huntmaster.
Right, which...
It's like his last spell of the game, right?
Yes, and now he's actually threatening lethal. If Hebert doesn't play a spell, he takes 12 damage next turn.
And Hebert has drawn a forest. I'd say if it was a mountain, he could possibly overload a Mortars here, if he were to have one.
but
and he has nothing.
All right, so William Huey Jensen, Hall of Fame elect, advances to 1-0.
Yeah, wins 2 games to 0. So one of the things, and I know we talked a bit about Burning Earth before the match, is that I've seen a lot of games when we've been watching on camera where it seems like a player casts a Burning Earth and then loses the game. You talked about how important it was to be ahead on board for the card. Maybe you can just talk a little bit more about, like the when you play it and when you don't behind Burning Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Burning Earth is not the type of card that you can just put down all the time. I mean, it can be really tricky to always know when are the best spots to use it, but it's one of those rare, like, they used to be much more common in Magic, but now it's relatively rare, these symmetrical cards that hose us both.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure that you want to see, do I have something else in my hand that could advance the board even more? And does this Burning Earth actually hurt my opponent more than it hurts me? And not just in terms of how much damage, but in terms of like, how is this game going to end?
Right.
And in that game,